Federal judge says former Dallas Cowboys wide receiver Sam Hurd will have to return to North Texas to face drug trafficking charges. Here's what the feds say happened. In July, an informant alerted the feds to a man in North Texas known as TL who wanted a shipment of drugs to be sold up north. Cops pulled TL over while driving Hurd's SUV and found more than $80,000 in cash and some marijuana. A few weeks later, Denton police connected Hurd to 4 people they arrested on drug and weapons charges. TL popped up again last week to help arrange a face-to-face meeting with Hurd. Hurd played 5 seasons with the Cowboys and is now with the Bears. He met with an informant and an undercover federal agent last night at a Chicago area Morton's Steakhouse. There, according to investigators, the group had a $300 dinner on filet mignon, and Hurd was arrested after agents say he accepted a kilo of cocaine and arranged to buy a lot more. The feds say Hurd was interested in 5 to 10 kilos of cocaine a week, ready to pay $250,000 for it. He also asked for 1,000 pounds of pot per week, all for distribution in the Chicago area. The undercover agent claims Hurd told him that he was already trafficking about 4 kilos of coke every week, but that his supplier could not keep up with his personal demand. Sam Hurd remains in federal custody pending bail, but will face those charges here in North Texas. Mike Ducey's joining us now. Mike, you covered Hurd for 5 years. If I had to ask you yesterday what kind of guy Sam Hurd was, what would you have said?
You know, by all accounts, Steve, and we saw this firsthand when he was with the Cowboys, a guy who talked often about his Christian faith, apparently was a good teammate and a loyal friend. But the aftershock of this Hurd arrest reverberating through 2 NFL locker rooms. Hurd is a Chicago Bear, as you mentioned now, but he's only been in Chicago for a few months. The San Antonio native did spend 5 years with the Cowboys, and at Valley Ranch today, tempers flared in the locker room as a reporter asked for reaction to the Hurd developments. Nose tackle Jay Ratliff restrained by Marcus Spears. ESPNDallas.com reporter Calvin Watkins, the target of Ratliff's anger. Meantime, reports in Chicago say the feds have the names of NFL players who allegedly bought drugs from Sam Hurd, a list of NFL players numbering into double figures. Cowboys players are not commenting on the Hurd story today, but in Chicago, Bears teammates are sounding off, including former Cowboy Roy Williams.
It's a situation that I don't want anybody to be in, especially a close friend and a teammate that I've been playing with now for 4 or 5 years now. So, especially a guy from Texas with a wife and daughter.
I'm in shock over it. I never saw it coming. And again, without responding a lot to it, because I don't know a lot about it, but just my dealing with Sam here, as most of you would probably say the same thing, has all been good. He's a guy that showed up every day ready to go to work.
So at a time of the season when teams can least afford to be distracted, 2 NFL clubs deal with a real stunner. A friend, a teammate, a former teammate, Sam Hurd facing up to 40 years in prison if convicted of the drug charges he faces tonight. I'm Mike Ducey, Fox 4 Sports.
Richard Roper is a former U.S. attorney for the Northern District of Texas, now in private practice. Doing defense work. We'll talk about that side of this in a minute. But first, you've read the criminal complaint. Said Hurd was doing 4 kilos of cocaine a week, wanted to expand to 40 kilos a month, about 90 pounds of cocaine a month, and 2 tons of marijuana. You've prosecuted this kind of thing. How would that have ranked around here? Is that like a drug kingpin? That's a lot, isn't it?
Oh, it's a lot of drugs. He was buying, allegedly, buying multi-kilogram amounts of cocaine on the streets. A drug dealer that buys wholesale quantities like that will cut the cocaine probably 3 or 4 times, even make more money. So it's a lot of cocaine.
I mean, and this takes people and money and space, I assume, right?
Yeah, when you get that much cocaine, you got to move it on the streets in small quantities to sell on the street, and that takes an operation to be able to do that.
All right, you were in the U.S. Attorney's office here when Nate Newton was arrested. 175 pounds of marijuana. Arrested once in Louisiana and then again here locally. Talk about the differences in these 2 cases.
Well, it's the amount of drugs is a big difference. And it's in a large area of the United States, Chicago. It's got, frankly, a bad problem with drug use there. So it's significant.
All right, based on your experience, let's talk about how this will play out. Law enforcement source has said, as you heard Mike saying, that there are the names of double-digit NFL players they've found. Those guys are going to get interviewed likely, right? At least.
Well, absolutely, and no doubt I'm sure that there'll be other efforts by law enforcement to obtain additional evidence. Maybe search his house, obtain cell phone records. That's usually a treasure trove of information for law enforcement.
As we know, he's only been in Chicago a short time, spent 5 seasons here. Is a natural investigation lead here and see what his activities were here?
I think probably the law enforcement agencies have plenty of leads to go after.
You see Cowboys being interviewed as an extension of this? Is that possible?
Well, usually what law enforcement will do is they'll obtain the cell phone records. They can trace funds that go into and out of accounts, bank accounts. They can go and search computers and go through, even if the hard drives, even these computers have been erased, they can dig up information and find names and locations and individuals and follow the lead.
All right. Let's talk about the current hat you wear. You're in criminal defense now, not specifically this kind of drug defense, but you're aware of it. What's going to happen to Hurd? What would you do if you were his defense attorney? What can he do?
Well, we don't know all the facts.
Right.
We just know what's in the complaint.
Right.
Hurd hasn't even been charged by a grand jury yet. So we're at an early stage. What is significant, I think, about the case is, one, it involves another individual that evidently had borrowed Hurd's car. It also involves a confidential informant. Confidential informants don't cooperate because they have this great...
They're not squeaky clean.
Not a great insatiable need to be a public servant. They do it because they either want to work off a case or they want money. And usually in a case like that, that's what motivates an informant. And some of the conversations that occurred between Hurd and this confidential informant, we don't know if those are recorded. We don't know what they're said. Are they just taking the confidential informant's word for what happened? Now, unfortunately for Hurd, the bad part is he evidently talks to an actual undercover federal agent.
And that's on the record. That's, probably recorded.
And now in the whole case might boil down to whether Hurd was entrapped.
Right.
In other words, they put that in his mind.
All right, Richard Rover, thank you for giving us some background on where this might head. Thank you very much. Please stay with us for Fox 4 News. Continuing coverage of this drug ring bust involving former Cowboy Sam Hurd. We'll be on it. We've posted the entire criminal complaint if you want to read it. It's on our website right now, myfoxdfw.com.